Right, I think that's it then. So, without further ado, imagine their cool electro-type theme tune. Give a round of applause for Linux Lads!
Hello, hello, hello. Welcome to the Linux Lads. I'm Shane.
I'm Mike.
And I'm Connor.
Yes, we thought we'd do the recorded bit live, just, for fun.
Why not?
Yeah, we didn't come here with much of a plan, did we?
No. Plan? No.
Yeah, we came here with very little planning, so forgive us if we're really shite. So, but yeah, how was your trip over, guys?
Much better than yours, actually.
Yeah, we didn't have to.
Yeah, we went with Aer Lingus and everything was pure freaking luxury.
I know, right? Yeah. I love coming to the UK. Because everyone's like, you got a plane over here? And I'm like, it's probably easier than how you got from another city in the UK. But yeah, today we're going to talk about, we're kind of throwing the whole format of the podcast out the window a bit, aren't we? And we're just going to talk about how much do you use the command line?
Yeah, and why Connor is wrong for not using it very often.
I'm sensing hostility. I don't know what. It's just hostility.
Yeah, but yeah, Mike. We know, like all three of us know that you are probably the biggest command line user of all three of us. So yeah, what would you use it for? Like, is the point, is what I'm going for.
Well, pretty much everything except internet browsing and anything that needs GUI. But everything else is easier and faster to do in the command line. So file operations.
Isn't there a command line like internet browsers? Just saying.
Yeah, they are. But have you seen how shy they are?
I have. That's the reason why I don't use them.
But they're so cool.
Yeah, but try watching YouTube in the command line.
Yeah, but the thing is, like, with these like command line tools, like it's not actual, like, sometimes it's not actual usefulness or utility is why you're using it. You're just using it because it's like, look what I can do on the command line.
Now you're just trolling me, though.
But I'm serious.
Yeah, so no, I'm not watching videos in ASCII. If that's what you're saying,
that'd be cool.
That actually exists.
I think somebody released the entire like Star Wars or
there's
something.
There's a Star Wars episode
in ASCII. Yeah.
Never finished it. It's kind of boring after the novelty wears off. But yeah, like everything that is faster, because I'm too lazy to move my hand 20 centimeters, just 5 inches to the right to grab the mouse. So everything else that I can do with the command line, F12 for the wake to come down and do it that way.
Yeah, like for me, like the command line is not something I use on a regular basis. Maybe years ago when you kind of had to. But I think like Linux GUIs have matured so much and become so good that I feel like I don't really need to. And plus I'm just lazy. Like, I mean, like, yeah, so like I wouldn't, like, obviously, like you were mentioning, like command line web browsers and all that kind of thing. But like, that's a novelty for me. That's something I try out just to see how it works. Like, I wouldn't actually use anything on the command line, really. Like, maybe like PPAs or something like that. I just copy paste some terminal command off the internet and use that, but I wouldn't actually like do it myself or come up with the commands myself.
So if you have to update the system, what do you do? Do you like open Synaptic or the App Store?
I just use the Ubuntu updater thing.
Yeah, but isn't it just easier to...
There's a thing in the corner that says, "Ooh, you've updates." Click on it. It's like magic.
Okay, yeah, but
yeah, like computers are supposed to make our lives easier.
Yeah, but hold on. By the way, I sometimes use Arch and Manjaro, and
yeah, by the way, we know.
And whenever the updater on the top right in GNOME says like you've got one update, I do yay because that's how cool and hipster I am. And it shows that there's more than one. So the updater, I don't know about Ubuntu, but I think on other systems, the updater actually always lags after what you can get if you just do the one command. And also it's like so burnt into my manual memory that I just do that anyway. But I find it just easier and faster and less annoying and consistent as well.
I would have to echo that point. For the vast majority of the time, I'm actually a UI user. I do pretty much everything in the UI because that's just how I'm used to. But it's just when doing updates, it just for whatever system I'm on, whether it's like apt-get updates or whatever, if I'm on an Ubuntu or Debian-based distro, or if I'm on an Arch-based distro, it's Yay, which is freaking fantastic. Just typing Yay into a terminal and like magic things just happen. It's absolutely fucking fantastic. But anyway, but yeah, it's just more reliable just doing it from the command line. I find just doing updates, and I found that I'm doing the yay-s command and just installing things from the command line.
I found I agree. Like, but I found like I was a Linux Mint user for quite a while, and oh, shut up. But
for all you naysayers, I'll say that like their Linux Mint and actually Zorn OS are actually fantastic for their use case. I'll like full hearts to them.
But like Linux Mint was confusing at one point because you had their software updater, and then you had Synaptic as well, which I used more often because it was just more useful to me. And then you also could have the command line. You could just do your apt-get. So I found myself using just the command line to update my system because I don't know. It just seemed cleaner. It just seemed like it was like the updater didn't really do a good job. Sometimes it would like fail and say it couldn't fetch packages and whatever. But then I do it on the command line. It's fine. And but Synaptic was great when you needed to find a very specific package. Like, so if you needed, like, for instance, I needed like drivers for my graphics card, and I had to find like a very specific package. So Synaptic was good for that.
Very specific set of skills.
No, I grant you that. Like, if I want to look for something, looking through Pacman and Yay is not as easy. I mean, it would probably be easy if I look it up, actually stop being lazy and just do the research on how to search for things in a packaging manager. But like the GUI one is easy because you can. I think we are hitting here something. It's easier to replicate an action once you learned it. It's easier on the command line, but if you need to do something that you're not too sure about, the GUI is obviously more easier to use because you have got all the options in front of you, as long as the GUI is good. And Synaptic's GUI actually is probably one, even if it's fucking ugly, but it's sorry to all the developers that I've just offended for life, but it's so well laid out
it's legacy. I'll say it's legacy.
Yeah, but it's a good legacy. Yeah.
No, it's reliable.
It's not like Windows XP legacy. It's it's
What?
GTK2 wasn't bad. That's where I started. GTK2, yeah. Anyway,
Ubuntu 10.10 for the win.
Yeah.
Obscure reference.
Yeah, you lost me anyway. You know, this is the professional way that usually doesn't come out in the podcast because you edit out, isn't it? So
yeah. Just to give you guys a little bit of background,
saved in the edit.
This is how it works when we actually record. Like the episode is somewhere between 45 minutes to an hour, and yeah, we talk for about an hour and a half to 2 hours.
Yeah. So now we talked about something. We stopped to the little bit. Fourth, what do you call it when you break down the fourth wall, and then we come back to the topic. So
this
Synaptic, right?
But yeah, just this is our very first live performance of the podcast, and I know it's not a big crowd, but it's still a crowd, and it's
that's not that many. And that's not that many of you.
So yeah, we kind of just thought we'd just come along and just start talking and see what happens.
And I've been reliably informed because it's my first time to imagine you all naked. Because
I'm not doing that.
Yeah. Okay. So now, if everybody wants to run away, please do so safely. But were we talking about Synaptic, right?
Yes, you were.
Oh yeah, okay. So yeah, it's a very good GUI because it's finally laid out, and you have all the options in front of you. So if you want to do something you don't know, and you're not exactly sure what you are doing or what you are looking for, it's there. So that's where, for me, the command line is sometimes less useful than the GUI.
Yes. I would have to agree. It's free. Everyone's use case. I mean, obviously the command line. If you're SSHing into a like headless server or something like that, needless to say, your command line foo has to be excellent because that's all you have. But if you're putting this down in front of your granny or whatever, and they have no idea what computers are, it's like, I just want to click on Chrome or Firefox or whatever browser of choice and log into my emails, then that's what their use case is. So it's par for course.
Yeah, like you were saying, click on Chrome. It's like when I'm showing kind of the elder members of my family like how to use computers and stuff, it's not really Chrome or Firefox. It's just the thing that shows me the internet. Like it's
I'm clicking on the Google and nothing is happening.
I don't know, the one with the rainbow colors. Yes.
Yeah, no, sorry. But you both have...
Mike wants to say something.
Yeah, I'm really aching to say something. You both have customer support, support experience, right, in the tech industry.
I work in customer support, yeah. I'm not ashamed to say it.
Yeah, so don't you...
Hello, my name is Connor and I work in customer support.
Don't you find that telling somebody to put a command in the command line is easier than trying to explain to them, now click at the top right corner and then...
Fuck no.
No?
Oh, no.
Not by long shot.
Not at all.
No,
God, no.
No.
Jesus.
That's
a can of worms.
Okay, well, now... That's not what I expected. I actually thought it would
have
be
you worked
easy.
in customer support? Have you?
No, that's what I'm asking.
You tell them to click on an icon. You will describe the icon in great detail. Its location on the screen, its colors, it's fucking like
that's way easier.
It's latitude and longitude, like, and they'll still click the wrong fucking thing.
No, because it has been a couple of times in Windows support where I've told them to bring up the command line, and it's the whole thing of now. Open up the run prompt, type in CMD. You're going to see a screen with a black background. No, but don't be afraid. You're not hacking your computer.
But I would have expected that telling people, press A, press B, press C, press space, press dash, it would be easier for them to understand than
in theory. In theory,
I
see your logic.
In practice, no, not at all.
Yeah, in theory, like if you could, like, say for instance, like I don't know, do a paste bin thing, and just give them the command and just say, here's the paste bin link. Just paste that in. They probably still fuck it up.
Right. Okay. So it's not a problem with the command, it's the users, as always.
Yes, it's always user error, 100% of the time.
I mean, there's been cases where I know a friend who was running Linux on his laptop, and he was in a coffee shop, and he just, because I think he was using a tiling window manager, it just happened to be his terminal was full screen, and he was doing his updates, and of course the updates were scrolling. Apparently, a manager of the coffee shop came over to him because he was quote unquote hacking.
Yeah, it's like, oh wow, that's like something from Mr. Robot. Like, that's so cool. Like, yeah, like I had a similar story actually. I was on the command line and I was, I think I can't remember what I was doing. I think I was just like, I was generating a Let's Encrypt cert, which is super easy. Like, it's not actually that hard because you have the helper script and all that. So I was just like typing some very small commands. I don't know if I'm talking into this properly. Yeah, I was just doing this, and all this really cool looking stuff would fly by on the screen, and my mate was looking over my shoulder, and he goes, "What are you doing there? That looks really complicated and everything." And I was like, "It isn't really. It's just the command line output. Like, it's not anything impressive. I'm not making this happen like in real time." So I think that's how people see the command.
You're showing off your elite hacking skills.
Yeah, but elite hacking skills, my God.
That's what I'm getting at. It's so easy. It's imagine that you would have to. I remember having to generate a SSL certificate before Let's Encrypt through a website, I think like Start SSL or something, where part of the complexity was that they wanted a lot of data up front, but then the GUI to actually get anywhere with it, or the GUI to manage a website that you don't have an SSH access to. I find it extremely difficult to follow like a cPanel or that kind of environment. Whereas in SSH is the same commands that you can use on your laptop, that you can use even on your phone if you are that inclined, and it's the same environment. So for me, to manage that is much easier than to manage it through a website.
Yeah.
I'm glad you agree with me. Really, no one has anything clever to say.
No, I just agree. Like.
It is depending on your use case. I mean, for me, because as I'm the token GUI user here, apparently, there's the cPanel or any UI tool is actually more intuitive to me. That's what I'm used to. But of course, sure, if there was a really well written guide in front of me, I would be able to follow the command line tool, but it's not intuitive to me.
The guide is called ArchWiki.
I was like the thing for me is that like back when I first discovered Linux, I was really into it and really enthusiastic about it, and like, holy crap, like there's something else apart from Windows, like, and I was like, this back in like the early noughties and stuff. So I was all in, and I was like, I want to do everything on the command line and be elite and like be peak Linux and stuff. And like,
what changed, man? What changed?
What changed is that like a couple of years ago, like 2 to 3 years ago, I finally just like got rid of my Windows partition and I just started using Linux full time on everything. And I found that I just didn't need to use the command line. So that was kind of the turning point for me. It wasn't that like I just transitioned from someone who's super enthusiastic about it to just this is what's on my computer and I don't really care. Like it's like yeah.
You're well. I completely get where you're coming from. I mean, it's not only is it something that you want to experiment with, as in you're an enthusiast, you want to hack it in quote unquotes, but also it's the thing that's running day to day on your computer. You just also want it to just work because sometimes you're coming home from work and you just want to click on your web browser to bring up YouTube.
Yeah, exactly. Like you kind of want the path of least resistance, like when you're on your own computer. So, like, just quick show of hands, who here? I'm not going to say never because you probably don't never use it, but that was really great grammar. But like, who here very rarely uses the command line and has Linux? Like, wow, okay. That's surprising.
So, for the audio point of view, that's probably about 5 or 6 people.
I counted 7, but it's all right. Yes, I was 7 out of what? Many tens of people.
I don't know why, but I'm genuinely surprised.
There's so many people here. Believe me. So many people.
You did have to do that, didn't you?
Man. The Trump impression. Oh my God.
Okay.
He was in Ireland a few days ago. I've had enough.
And the blimp was over here, so there
I know,
was over
I was at- I
over
was-
here.
I was
It
at-
was over in Ireland. I'm already in Ireland.
I was at the rally. I saw it.
It was brilliant.
But yeah. So. But yeah, that's my point. Is that like I use Linux so often that I don't feel compelled to kind of go down the rabbit hole as much these days because it's just the operating system that I use anyway. So it's not a big deal to me anymore. It's just part of my life.
My situation is reversed. So as Connor said, this depends on the use case, right? So I got a job where I'm allowed to use Linux at work 2 years ago or something, and since then my command line usage actually skyrocketed, and I'm not a sysadmin or a developer. Where I normally would be using spreadsheets before, I now use something like Wikidata because the amount of I work with CSV files, and the amount of lines in there, the whole size of the file is so massive that LibreOffice or even Excel basically just stutters to grind in some of them. Whereas command line tools like Wikidata or like the old classics like Awk and Set, they just grind through it in seconds, and I can filter, I can aggregate, I can redo reports and stuff like that. Now, having said that, my usage skyrocketed, but I'm still fairly basic. I threw in Awk and Set like I'm some kind of a ninja, but this is basically just Stack Overflow. Stack Overflow. Stack Overflow is that website should be just bathed in gold or something because it enables me to do my job.
It got me through college. Yeah. So, but yeah. I think, have we beaten this topic to like beaten the dead horse a bit too much? What do you guys think?
Have we exhausted the topic or the audience?
What was the backup topic we came up with?
So what have you guys been up to?
I genuinely can't remember the backup topic.
Well, hold on, we can get to it. But what have we been up to? I think we should have done it. Basically, we normally do this at the beginning of the show. You know, he asks what we've been up to, and we obediently say what we've been up to. We skipped it this time, but since you mentioned it,
Yeah.
you've been up to something, obviously.
I'm always up to something. No, what I was up to recently was first time in a long time I actually switched over to GNOME full time on my laptop. I still have Cinnamon on my desktop, but for laptop use case, it actually makes sense to me. The whole thing of because immediately when I'm on a desktop it's like keyboard and mouse, so the Cinnamon desktop just makes sense to me because I'm used to the Windows-esque paradigm of, you know, toolbar at the bottom and menu and everything like that. So that's what makes sense to me when I'm sitting down at my desktop computer. But when I'm on my laptop, the whole keyboard centric aspect of the GNOME shell just it's starting to make sense to me, and particularly with the very latest versions, what is it, 3.32 or something like that, is it just, I'm actually quite enamored by it, which actually surprised me because I thought it would just be a short-term thing, and so yay, GNOME shell.
Yeah, I've gone full Ubuntu. Thank you. Yeah, I never thought I'd hear myself say that because, like, obviously Ubuntu was the gateway drug for me many, many years ago, and but yeah, I've actually put, what is it, I have 1810 on the laptop, and then 1904 on the desktop. I can't remember now. It's probably the other way around. I don't know.
I can't help you here.
But because I said it to you, you don't remember anything I say. But yeah, tough. I was like, I know we had a bit of a love in for Ubuntu on the podcast a couple of episodes ago, but with good reason, in my opinion.
No, quite good reason. Yeah,
it's like I'm very, very like I'm back in love with Ubuntu now in the last few months. Like, it's a wonderful feeling.
Are you going to ask me what I've been up to?
What have you been up to, Mike? Speak quickly.
I've been playing with the build with the Debian Mate build for the Pine 64, for the Pinebook Pro actually on the Pine 64, and yeah, it's the first time I can actually run full. I managed to run like Amazon Video on an SBC, so I think that's going well. I couldn't get any of the proper Linux games like Xonotic and OpenArena working on it, even though they downloaded and supposedly installed, but I'd imagine that's just that's going to improve as they develop it.
So, point of clarification, was this on, so is this a Pinebook Pro build on a ROC 64 or on a
ROC Pro 64? So
it's the same.
For most people who don't know what we are talking about, these are single board computers that are going to end up in the Pinebook Pro. And there's the same board that's going to be in the Pinebook Pro, so it's going to run. It's running the same distribution, but yeah, it's getting there, and it's running the Mate desktop.
I'm genuinely worried that we're going to be labelled as Pine 64 shills.
Well, I am, right? I mean, I already have the Pinebook, and I use it as like for most of my home computing things. So yeah,
we're kind of all in. But yeah. Now that there's a lull, I probably should have done this at the start, but I just wanted to say thanks to Joe and all the guys for inviting us out here. It's pretty cool. It's like I should have done that at the start or at the end, but whatever.
Yeah,
I'm not going to edit this.
Editing, what does this mean?
It's live and dangerous, you know. But yeah, it's bloody. It's really cool to be here, like, and it's cool to be doing this up on a stage, like, in front of people, and yeah. So I just want to give some love.
Fuck it, we're doing it live.
Yeah, but yeah. We had a backup topic, and I
We
can't
do, yeah.
bloody remember it now.
What are you missing in Linux?
What do you miss? Yes, because I remember thinking at the time when you mentioned that, because like in the preparation for this show, we were kind of saying like, oh my god, what are we going to talk about? Oh my god, we're going to get up there, it's going to be a disaster.
And by preparation for a show, he means like 5 minutes ago.
But like we came up with two topics. We said we would talk about the command line, and then we would talk about something else, just in case we ran out of steam. And we ran out of steam way earlier than I thought we would. And so, yeah. What are we missing in it? That's actually a great one, because I remember thinking at the time we should have done that as the first thing. Yeah, because...
You never said, you know.
And I'm keeping an eye on the time. It's okay. But yeah, what are we missing in it? That's a great one, actually. What do you think? You go ahead. You go first.
Well, first, whenever we start recording podcasts, when we say... we start at 10 and start recording at 11 because the audio never works. So, the audio never works properly, or the video software, because we can't record without seeing each other remotely over video. These kind of things never work properly up until like an hour of tinkering into the whole process. So, that's the one thing. If we could have like appliance-based or appliance style audio so you basically just press a button and everything will be set up every day, every time you try it, working even after updates, and you just don't have to think about it, basically. So I don't know how far this goes, audio stack and video communication.
Yeah, I actually agree. I think that's a big thing for me is the audio side of Linux is a bit confusing to me. So I'd love to see something that simplifies that a tad. That said, going back to Ubuntu, I've found it a little bit easier in the latest Ubuntu. Now, I do have some weird issues where, like, I'll be playing a YouTube video in Firefox and there'll just be no sound for some reason, and then I'll have something else that is putting out sound, and I have no idea why.
Is this I think in the last version of Firefox they actually disabled autoplay on, or are you after? Is it after you press the play button?
Yeah, no, just generally when I'm playing a video in Firefox, like I have to, I can't remember. Like I just click things until I hear noise. But like that's my troubleshooting process in general. Just click things until it does what I want.
Yeah, I think that's.
We have one convert already.
This is my gripe with it, right? So I don't understand audio at all. For me, if I could just click the sound button and there would be I don't need to know my inputs and outputs. I like kind of, or just list them in a way that I can understand, and let me select the one and the application that it works with. Somehow, in a understand for a person who knows nothing about audio to understand how to set up your inputs and outputs so that the microphone that you actually want to use, not the microphone on your camera or the microphone on something else, on your fridge or whatever, is talking to your audio stack, and the output so that it comes out your headphones, not out of your TV. So, right. So that kind of thing is extremely complicated on Linux, at least as far as I can see. I didn't find, and even if I use Power Control or anything, it just doesn't show it to me in a simple way enough so that my feeble brain can understand it.
Yeah, for sure. Like it's like the elephant graveyard. I just don't go there. Like it's what about you, Connor? What's missing from Linux?
For the most part, I'm able to do pretty much everything that I want to do. I mean, I'm not saying I'm an avid gamer, but the Linux gaming community is certainly growing of late. The actual most recent thing that was a gripe for me that actually I solved was my audio interface. Was my previous one had a Windows driver, and I had to friggin' boot into Windows in order to get it to work, but thankfully I solved that by just switching the hardware. But it's always an elegant solution. But no, genuinely, I don't think there's anything that I'm missing at the moment. I'm sure there's things that can be improved, because there's always things that can be improved, but nothing springs to mind. Yeah,
I'm kind of the same. I mean, when I set out using Linux, and I kind of got into it and learned how it worked, and got into all the community and everything. I sort of accepted that some things were going to be missing, and it wasn't going to be as seamless as an experience as using Windows or Mac or something like that's proprietary and commercial and blah blah blah.
Negative in the freedom dimension.
Negative in the freedom dimension, yeah. So I don't know. Whatever's missing for me, I kind of just accept it and move on, because it's I think that ultimately I'm using Linux, so that's what I want to be doing, because I just think it's a better way to use my computer. So, if there is anything missing, and I'm sure there is, I'm sure I could think of something, but like the thing for me is that I don't really care, because it's like I'm accepting some of the rough edges, to be using an operating system that I think is better and aligns with my ideas and my values and blah blah blah, all that kind of good stuff. Yeah, so yeah, there's like audio is definitely a real bugbear, especially since we started doing the podcast, like, because we always have this, we have this thing when we record the podcast, which is usually either on a Friday night or a Saturday morning. We always say, like, if it's on a Saturday, it's like 11 a.m. so it doesn't clog up our day and we can still do other stuff. So
also, who wants to get up early on a Saturday?
Yeah.
So 11 a.m.
And it's like 11 a.m. on a Saturday, but usually we start more like 11:45 because there's like audio issues all over the place. It's like, hang on, lads, I have to hang up. I can't hear you. You can't hear me. I can't see you. Audacity's not working for some bloody reason. Like it's a bit of a nightmare, but like we've kind of gotten to a point where we just accept it, and we're just like, yeah, let's just say a half hour earlier for the sake of it, just to account for all those issues. Like,
well, I'm not sure if I accepted it. I just can't do anything about it.
Yeah, but I'm not angry about it either. I'm just kind of like, oh, it's not working. This is my life now,
Just as you were talking there, I just would like to echo a couple of those points. But it caused me to think of maybe the reason why I'm struggling to think of things is of just adapted is the whole thing of. Sure, I'm thinking, okay, this tool I can't use, but there's this other tool, so I'm using this other tool now, and this other tool is suiting my needs, and then so I made a certain amount of choices. So probably at the time when I was making that choice, I would have gone off on a big, massive rant and said, oh yeah, the thing that's missing in this sense is X tool, but then a week or two later realize, oh, there's Y tool, which is a Linux alternative that does pretty much the same thing. So probably the reason why I can't think of it is I've just made all of those decisions along the way, and I've just, for the moment, I'm like, oh, why do I need to use X tool, because Y tool does pretty much the same thing.
Yeah, exactly. There's always an alternative, really. Like you'd be hard pressed not to find an alternative when it comes to like Linux and the open source software and etc. Like, If you find something and it's not up to scratch, like, you're more than likely going to find something somewhere that does what you want it to do. Like, there's a lot of choice.
There is a lot of choice, but there's a lot of people. If you have to work with somebody who expects things from the, say, Windows kind of point of experience, you can do most of things that, say, Excel can do, you can do in LibreOffice Calc. But if they expect you to provide them with like a pivot table with a special slider at the top, you can't, because that's the Microsoft way of doing things, and LibreOffice doesn't have that particular functionality. And even if it did, it would probably not transfer very well through the conversion to the program. So that's the one thing where other people expect you to use a certain format, or to expect you to give them the information in a certain way that is suitable for their operating system, but not for yours.
We're into the last 10 minutes now. I think we're finishing up at 7. Is that right, Joe? Yeah. Okay, 7. So I thought, like, because, like, I don't know, this is off script a little bit. I hope you guys don't mind.
Go for it.
Because we,
yeah,
exactly. I know, right? Because like we kind of do this, like we're locked away in our bedrooms in Dublin when we're what? Why is that funny?
That sounded incredibly
I think
silly.
it's funny in regards to what you are going to say. But
No, we're always like locked away. Like we don't get much interaction with the community because the community isn't quite as large in Ireland for obvious reasons, because less people there, and like like so I don't know. I'd like to maybe like see if anyone has any like questions or they want to say anything or ask us, tell us we're shite or something. I don't know. I don't know. Does anyone want to say anything to us or ask us a question? It's okay if you don't. We'll just move on.
I'd like to say the latter, that we are shite. Yeah. So that's one vote in that direction.
We've got one. Yes. Wait for the mic.
So, just to point to rewind all the way back to the beginning.
Right out.
With Yay, you can search for tools quite interestingly with Yay -S and like 2 words. So like editor thing. So you can do 2-word searches quite deeply. It's very useful.
Good. Thanks.
Any other
Love
questions?
it. Love it.
Thanks. Just to follow up on your point about incompatibility between Word and LibreOffice, have you got a solution to that problem?
Well, no, I just tell the people that I give you the CSV and you put it in the format you want.
Right, because unfortunately I also have found that tables and scientific things don't transfer very well, so I end up using Word Online, unfortunately, to do that job.
I
would say there is Word Online. What you have said, I've heard in terms of Office compatibility, the WPS Office is supposed to be good. It's not free and open source, but I've heard it does have Linux binaries and it has reportedly very good Microsoft.
I've tried it. It's not great.
I refuse to buy Office 365. So, yeah.
Oh, we got one over there.
I wonder if this will be about Mate at all.
I never did like Joe Ressington. This is a hot tip for Mike. You can complete your journey to Command Line Ninja. There is a command line browser called Browsh. It's BROW.sh, and it's actually very, very good.
Is that the one when you have to have Firefox installed and it will show you, it will render the... Yeah, I've heard about it. So
it's very clever the way it renders the graphics to ANSI art. Yeah.
Yeah, thanks. I'll give it a try.
I've got a question. When you asked who only uses the GUI and doesn't use the command line, fucking Will put his hand up. And I'm not having it. Will, please explain.
It's my job to stop you having to use the command line.
But why?
Why what?
Why would you want people to stop using the command line?
Because it's clunky, it's complicated, it's confusing, and it's shrouded in mystery. You shouldn't have to. My point is that if the Ubuntu desktop team are doing their job correctly, then you should never need to open a command line.
Yes, I agree.
I'd like to echo Will's point. Is the whole thing of it's the lowest barrier to entry. I mean, if you put to use the generic granny example again, if you were to put a computer down in front of your granny and all it was doing was showing the command line, then that's not very intuitive.
So that fails on the point that most of your Ubuntu users, as far as I imagine, are not grannies. And that's the thing. You see, you might be a very visual person. I'm a very textual person. So for me, the command line, if it wasn't there, I probably wouldn't use it. So, yeah.
Yeah. I'm not trying to... I'm not trying to stop anybody using the command line. What I'm trying to do is make sure that there are alternatives so that you don't have to if you don't want to.
Here.
I use Linux all day, every day. I use Ubuntu all day, every day. I don't do software development, most of the time. And so what I do, I can do without dropping to the command line. And I'm quite happy with it like that.
Yeah, I mean, it's like, do we want to all show how good we are at things, or do we want to just like put some shit on our computer that makes us do computer stuff? Like that's what Linux is for me. Like it's just the thing that's on my computer that allows me to use the computer. Like I don't really care about how it works anymore, like I used to. But nowadays, it's just my daily thing. It's just my daily OS. I don't really give a shit about how it works anymore. I don't want to use the command line because I want to just I want it to be easy.
But this from That's what I was trying to express, that the command line allows me to work easily on the things that are not related to Linux at all. The command line for me is something that enables me to work fast and easily. If it wasn't there, like the amount of clicks I would have to make to filter something in Excel or in anything, something like that, it's just for me the command line is much easier to use. That's what I'm trying to get to.
I think we're like 3 minutes from time now.
Does Stuart have a follow-up?
I got a question.
I'm sure he does. Let's have a look.
You've had all these terrible problems with audio. Did you go and buy a computer with Ubuntu on it? Or did you install it yourself?
I installed it myself.
If you buy a computer with Ubuntu on it, it works.
Interesting.
Also, do you switch distros a lot? You've seen, from what you've been saying so far, if you switch distros a lot, I can imagine how from one week to the next, things might fuck up.
That's good to know, actually.
No, that's...
hang on. Even on the man who last night, when we recorded user error, I fixed this, I fixed it now, I fixed that error where it talks like this. Connects to Mumble. Hello, chaps.
No, he did.
He filed a bug.
Okay. We've 2 minutes left. Should we wrap it up? What do you think?
Yeah,
you tell me.
Okay. One last question. If anybody has it, otherwise we'll. Okay, there's one in the back there.
It's not particularly a question, but one thing that I miss from Windows is obviously Windows Updater. Whenever you go home,
Sorry, what?
and,
Probably the worst thing you could have picked from Windows.
And
So sorry, you that's a kind of sex thing, or?
no, like you go home, you turn on your computer, wait half an hour for it to turn on. It is ideal because then you can hoover your house, you can go wash your dishes. How much time do you waste when you just go home and just turn on the computer and do what you need to do? If you've got some time to do what you actually have to do, maybe you might get around to it.
So it gives you some enforced downtime, is what you're saying, like.
Yeah, it's a health thing, right?
Not only do you get to do that at home, but if you use Windows at work, you get to have that as work time.
Yeah,
that is a good thing. Yeah,
so
I agree with that. Yeah,
make a cup of tea, check out for half an hour, go at the pub.
I have a
Windows, you got a blue screen. Just call IT.
I worked in a place they were reflashing all our computers from Windows 7 to Windows 10, and yeah, that was fucking brilliant. Like we just got an hour off work. Like.
Well,
I would like to share an anecdote just in relation to that. There was actually something quite recently, and it was a work computer, and it was whatever month update that Windows 10 was having, and it literally made my computer completely and utterly unusable for about 20 minutes because it was doing whatever friggin' update it was doing and rebooting 500 million times.
Yeah, in a work situation, that's fine. It's their time, not mine.
Next time in Windows, let's.
But anyway, yeah. So it's 7 bells anyway. So I think that's our cue to get the fuck off this stage. And thank you for being here. Thank me for being here and all that shit.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So thanks to the audience. You've been a great audience, and thanks to you for the questions.
Thank you for pity laughing and
thank you to the venue. It's been a great venue, great food, and thank you for Joe for organising this.
Yeah, thanks to Joe. Thanks to all you guys. You've been wonderful, and thanks to Harrison for a cracking fish and chips.